Hi, I'm Deirdre McMurdy, and our guest today is Rob Mikalachki, who's the head of Small-Cap Equities for Trimark Investments, and he's also the portfolio manager on Trimark Global Small Companies class. Rob, before we begin, first, congratulations to you and your team for a pretty impressive track record. I understand that the Small-Cap Equities team has won several awards, including 6 Canadian Investment Awards and 5 Lipper Awards, so good on you for that.
Thank you very much.
And getting down to business now, Rob, what first inspired you to become a portfolio manager? What got you going in this business?
You know what? I had a brother who preceded me into the industry, and he fed me a couple of books, and that was it. It just hit me over the head, and I was hooked. I think it was Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street, and maybe Robert Hagstrom's The Warren Buffett Way, and they just really resonated with me. And then what I loved about investing, I loved the puzzle-solving aspect of it. You get inside of a business, you figure out what makes it tick, why it's advantaged and sustainably advantaged versus its peers, and why it's maybe misunderstood in the market. And if it is misunderstood and it's trading at a low price, that you step up, you belly up to the bar, and you buy it. And you see eventually if you were right or not. And that's the other part of investing I love, the competitiveness of it, the measurability of it, that over longer periods of time, you see who's winning and who's losing.
Now, Rob, I'm sure that you're familiar with this phenomenon. People hear that you invest in small cap or smaller companies, and they automatically assume, oh, that must be a much riskier space for investment. What do you say to reassure them about that?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I had to go through life as a fish, I think I would rather be that 10-pound pike in a small lake in northern Ontario, than a 50-pound fish in an ocean full of predators. And I would just dominate my small lake. And that's what we do. We look for companies that dominate niches in a market. And a great example, a business that we used to own and have since sold, is a company called Synaptics. And they make the touch technology that you see on smartphones. And when we first invested in Synaptics, smartphones themselves were fairly nascent, but you could very easily predict they were going to be a much, much bigger part of the market. So we saw a company with all sorts of runway. It didn't have a lot of competitors. There were 1 or 2 other people that we thought might be able to compete with them, but in the scheme of the growth, it didn't really matter. And so we made our investment, and it worked out very, very well for us. Now you compare that to their customers, to the BlackBerries of the world, to the Nokias, companies that are fading into obscurity as we speak here today. And who would you rather be? Would you rather be the small company that did one thing really, really well in a growing market? Or would you rather be that big household brand that's fighting it out against 5 or 6 other big household brands?
Rob, the Trimark Global Small Companies class can invest anywhere in the world. How many small companies do you actually have to choose from when you're searching for new investments for the fund?
I'll tell you what, it's a high-class problem that we face. There's about 40,000 small-cap companies in the world. There's about 42,000 stocks in the world. So the vast majority of the investments you can make are actually small-cap names. So for us, it's all about narrowing it down and making it a manageable group to go and analyze. And there's all sorts of ways we do that, but eventually, at the end of the day, it means us getting on a plane, putting boots on the ground, and having a very honest and fruitful conversation with the senior management team of the company that we're thinking of investing with.
Can you give us an example of 2 businesses, one in Canada, maybe the other outside of Canada, and tell us why you've chosen to invest in the company outside of Canada instead of the one here at home?
Sure. I'll tell you what, a company in Canada, and we don't actually have an investment in this company, but it's a good point of contrast to one we do have an investment in. The company in Canada is TMX Group, which runs the stock exchange. And every time a stock is traded, they make a little bit of money. They make money for providing stock transactions so that people like me can look at my computer screen and see what's going on in the market. And it's a good business, and they're the dominant, it's a monopoly. They own the business in Canada. But the issue with TMX Group is it's a mature business. There's not a whole lot of growth left. Canada's a mature market. They've got 100% of the market. There ain't a whole lot of room to grow there. Now contrast that with the company we own in Brazil called CETIP. And SATIP basically is a repository or a database for all of the fixed income securities that are traded in Brazil. Again, it's a monopoly. It has terrific scale advantages, terrific free cash flow, very similar to TMX Group. The big difference is the growth. This market is embryonic in Brazil. The size of the market in Brazil is tiny. The number of products in that tiny market are very few. So we've got a massively growing market over the next 10 years. And I guess that's sort of the attractiveness in a company like SATIP versus TMX Group, two companies trading for almost the exact same price earnings multiple.
Rob, why do you think that investors, whether they're new to the market or they're a little more seasoned, should think about including your fund in their portfolio? Where do you fit in?
Sure. I think small caps have always been the most attractive part of the market in terms of absolute returns. The detriment, or their detriment, has been their propensity to blow people up from time to time. And there are a lot of people shooting for the moon with small cap investments, trying to find the next Cisco or the next Microsoft or the next Procter & Gamble. And I can tell you, we've delivered all that upside and then some, and we've done it with great attention to managing the downside. You know, we're not looking for the next big thing. We're looking for these companies that have been around a long time. You've maybe never heard of them, but they are dominant at what they do, and for some reason or another, they are temporarily trading for far less than they're worth. So I think the case to be made for our funds is to grab that upside without taking on the risk that you traditionally do with a small cap investment.
Rob, thanks very much for the information, the conversation. It was great speaking with you.
Thanks, Deirdre.
And viewers, if you want to know more about the Trimark Global Small Companies class, speak to your financial advisor.